for coming on today. And before we get to each of the panelists, I just want to provide a little bit of information on the recent legislative attacks on the Arizona Corporation Commission and their clean energy rules and what they can mean for the future of renewable energy in Arizona. Um, the two bills that we're focusing on with this event are HB 2248 and SB 1175. They're both sponsored by the House and Senate Republicans who hold the majority in both houses. These bills directly target the clean energy rules being considered by the Arizona Corporation Commission. And just to give a little bit of background, the ACC has historically not only set the rates that we pay for energy in Arizona, but they also set the renewable energy standard and tariffs, or by acronym, that's REST, that utilities must meet. And I'd say that REST is the single most important regulation for achieving renewable energy generation in Arizona. And right now, the ACC has before them a formal rulemaking to require 100% renewable energy by 2050, or clean energy by 2050. So if passed, these bills will essentially mean that the ACC has no authority to adopt or enforce this carbon-free energy rule. And we'll hear more from the panelists about the importance of renewable energy in Arizona, but I'll briefly say that clean renewable energy and energy efficiency keeps our communities healthy. I think there's nothing more important than the air we breathe and the water that we drink. Clean energy conserves our precious resources. It reduces pollution and emissions that contribute to climate change. Sorry about my dogs. Pollution makes asthma worse for children. It puts adults' lives at risk. And more often, low-income Arizonans are disproportionately impacted by this pollution. And overall, more renewable energy means cleaner air for everyone. It means healthier communities for Arizona. And since these two bills were introduced, there has been more attacks on the ACC. Just to name a few, HB 2737 is ready to go to the House floor now. It would allow any legislator to challenge an action by the ACC. It would send it to the Attorney General, and that would take it directly to the Arizona Supreme Court. A successful challenge would result in a hit to the ACC budget, which would affect its ability to fulfill its responsibilities to regulate utilities and other entities. And one other bill is SB 1459. It's also advancing to make the ACC subject to the same administrative processes as agencies. It's completely inappropriate because it's a separate branch of government, not just another agency. So we see with these bills, it seems like the legislator is aiming to halt renewable energy expansion in the state, which is really not great. So with that background in mind, I'm going to pass it on to the panelists that have joined us to speak on these legislative issues and the general importance of renewable energy in Arizona. So let's start off with some introductions. I'll start off with Indira.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Indira Nielsen, and I am a high school student and environmental activist from Flagstaff, Arizona. I am a member of Flagstaff Arts and Leadership Academy's Environmental Coalition, and I am also a member of the City of Flagstaff's Youth Climate Organization. And earlier in February, some youth activists and I attended Environmental Day at the Capitol, which was led by the Grand Canyon chapter of the Sierra Club. And in preparation for Environmental Day, I researched bills independently and also attended seminars explaining the climate and renewable energy bills. And specifically, I was drawn to House Bill 2248 and Senate Bill 1175, which were just explained. And Flagstaff Arts and Leadership Environmental Coalition members are in opposition to HB 2248 and SB 1175 because they would prevent the Corporation Commission from pursuing these renewable energy projects independently. And not only are these bills so harmful to the environment by stopping renewable energy projects, but they are also harmful to many of the local communities, which would greatly benefit from renewable energy. For example, coal production and distribution has many harmful effects on the Navajo Nation and other tribes that are located in Arizona. And one of the most important aspects of Environmental Day at the Capitol is meeting with your legislative district representatives and participating in democracy by voicing your opinions on the bills in session. And as a resident of Flagstaff, I am in Legislative District 6, which is known to not have receptive legislators when discussing environmental issues. I attempted to organize a meeting with Representative Walter Blackman and the other environmental groups from LD6, only to have him cancel the meeting at the last minute. And this is no coincidence. The previous year at Environmental Day at the Capitol, our LD6 legislators would not meet with us to discuss bills relating to the environment. And that is why I'm here today in an attempt to make my voice and the voices of like-minded youth from across Arizona heard. As youth, we will be living on this earth for generations to come. And as the future voters of Arizona, we ask you to stop HB 2248 and SB 1175 from passing in order to secure a safer and healthier future with plenty of renewable energy projects.
Thank you so much, Indira. Thank you for being here as well. I'll have Eric introduce himself next.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the invitation to participate. It's these types of subjects and this type of audience and the organizers behind it. It's always a privilege to be able to be asked by you all and for the purposes behind it. And then also for our audience, people taking the time to care and to learn from us and many other folks is also something that I don't take lightly. So I'm grateful for your attention. Again, my name is Eric Deschini. Mai desh gizhni nishlekia ani pashishchin pitani dashiche hanach dashanella jinle denasha. Part of my introduction includes my clans. There are 4 of them. They're all derivatives of a matrilineal lineage. And those clans go specific to place, go specific to a people within a people that have a responsibility to our environment. So in other words, our kinship just doesn't end amongst blood relatives, and it just certainly doesn't just end amongst humans. It very much goes to kind of an interpersonal relationship to place. And this subject very much does that. It goes to our ability to sustainably live where we're going to be. We meaning my kids and their kids and the many after that. So clanship identification is a particular relevance. I also mentioned that I'm originally from Chinle. I'm from Chinle. That's where my belly button is, our umbilical cords are buried. That's what we as Navajo people do. So our indigeneity, if you will, very much is rooted in a particular place. And so that's who I am. I'm, I think, identified as a tribal government relations director with Navajo County. That's a former position that I've had. So I want to kind of clarify that. Presently, I do a lot of elections work. I'm a consultant to a lot of civic engagement initiatives with nonprofits. And I'm a former member of the Arizona House of Representatives, representing Legislative District 7, which includes 9 of the 22 federally recognized tribes. So that was a very good time, and I still enjoy engaging on these bills, the good ones and the bad ones. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. And lastly, I'll have Commissioner Tovar introduce herself.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the invitation. It's such a great honor to be on with every single one of you discussing very important issues such as these 2 bills. So just a little history about myself. I'm an Arizona native, grew up here in the West Valley, right outside Phoenix. Had a unique upbringing where my grandparents, they were migrant farm workers, very entrepreneurial in spirit, and started their own small grocery store. So it actually started as a fruit stand and kind of morphed in many years to when I was born, it was a full-fledged grocery store. So from when I was 3 days old until I was 33, that was my life, living in a store. So, and that was part of our family business. So it taught me a lot of crucial skills that were instilled in me by my grandparents and my parents as well too. And one of those is just serving one's community. So I was a school teacher as well too in the city of Tolleson, a kinder and first grade teacher. I really truly thought I'd be a teacher for the rest of my life, and I would have been extremely happy because I love teaching. But as you know, sometimes life throws you curveballs, and mine was cancer. So it was a cancer that was brought forward from an environmental toxin that nearly took my life, not once, but twice. So it really changed my life in regards to realizing, just what damages can happen to not only, humans, but animals in our environment in regards to toxins in our environment and how harmful they are. In my case, it really changed my life and put my priorities into perspective. I served on our local city council here in Tolleson. After cancer, I moved to the state legislature, served in the House and the Senate. And then from there, I took a little break for my family. And then from there, I ran for mayor of the city of Tolleson and did 4 years there as their first female mayor in their city's history. And then now here at the commission. So it'll be almost 2 months come the beginning of March, and absolutely love it. It has been a very fast type setting in regards to these bills that we'll be discussing. So I've been going back to my own stomping ground, the legislature, and testifying in regards to these bills. So looking forward to our conversation. And please know I'm here to answer any questions. And if we don't get to any, hopefully I'll provide you my contact information in case there's follow-up.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves and being here. I'm just going to start off with kind of a general question I'll ask all of you to answer. And I'll start with Indira again. What are your thoughts on the recent attacks on the Arizona Corporation Commission, meaning these bills? And if these bills are passed, how do you think these changes will impact the communities you represent?
I think that any bills that are passed attacking the Corporation Commission are totally out of line. They are requiring the Corporation Commission to have to go through the legislative process to pursue any renewable energy projects, which is diminishing their power. And also, if these bills are passed, it would stall the progress of renewable energy projects, which could be really crucial to some communities that are facing the hardest impacts of not only non-renewable energy sources, but also the climate crisis as it worsens in their communities.
Yeah, thank you, Indira, for that. I'll ask the same question directed at Eric. If you need me to repeat it, I will.
Yeah, Sarah, could you please?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the recent attacks on the Arizona Corporation Commission by the Arizona legislator? And if these bills are passed, how do you think these changes will impact the communities you represent?
Well, I think when you read the language, it's pretty standard from conservative minds when it comes to deregulating the private industry. So when you start to look at public education, or when you look at just, gosh, you name it, there's so many things that come to mind. There's a staunch effort to deregulate, shrink government down to where it's almost nothing, such that the private industry can continue to control things. I think it's particularly scary given the science-measured climate crisis. And we're watching dramatic, really unfortunate, horrific things happen, lives lost that shouldn't be in the state of Texas. That whole story, as we're literally watching unfold in real time, is a perfect thing to carefully consider and study when it comes to the ill effects and the consequences and the irresponsibility of taking public utility or taking the power out of public utility and putting it into a very narrow niche set of hands. And so to this, I guess the second part of your question is how do what kind of effects will that have? Well, one is lives lost, and most of my advocacy nowadays comes from the lens of the climate crisis, what it is, what it can do and what it can't do. And I think the real threat that we have is the ability for folks both locally, regionally, statewide, and in many cases nationally. It hamstrings our ability to save ourselves, to save lives. And so I think the move is again across the board, where you just simply see deregulation on steroids. These myopic interests are just that. They're narrow-minded, short-sighted, and serve just a few. And there's a little bit more I'd like to elaborate on, but I'll just simply say this, is that I firmly believe that a lot of these efforts across the board, where the public has a great amount of power, stems from a fear that the, the demographics in this country, as well as in this state, are shifting rapidly, where the majority will soon become the minority. And that is evidenced by a number of former colleagues that I've had, people in office who have, in their own ways, revealed that. It's also a statistical certainty that this trend is happening, and so if you can imagine that the power the power shift is unfolding, and when you really begin to carefully look at what that means, practically speaking, politically speaking, people of color are going to be taking over the reins. And that for a lot of folks, that's very scary. Lastly, Deb Haaland is undergoing her vetting by the Senate for her nomination as Department of Interior Secretary. The questions that she is fielding today very much goes to this subject matter. Is the future of the energy spectrum across the state and what that looks like. The questions that she's receiving reveal so much about the future as to who's going to have authority. So there's much more to say, but maybe I can elaborate more on other questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Eric. I'll ask Commissioner Tovar that same question. What are your thoughts on these recent attacks by the Arizona legislator? And I kind of want to hear specifically from you. How would this, if passed, how would this impact your role on the Corporation Commission?
Okay. Well, definitely, I just want to give you a current update on the bills themselves right now. So HB 2248 today was retained in Committee of the Whole, which is good. There was talk about an amendment that was floating around as well too. So we're just waiting to get our hands on it. SB 1175 was passed out of rules, and it was amended yesterday. And so far, it hasn't been agendized for the Committee of the Whole just yet. The amendment that was attached yesterday essentially doesn't make it any better, but it also just continues for it to be unconstitutional. So the Rules Committee is the committee where I used to sit on as well too, in both the House and the Senate, and that's supposed to be the committee that if there is a bill that is unconstitutional or might have problematic issues, it should be stopped there. But again, as Eric mentioned, there is a quite conservative membership in both the House and the Senate. So again, it did pass through. The amendment also codifies the existing arrest rules. And I know you mentioned those in the very beginning, it does take out the distributed generation carve out that's currently in the REST rules. So it makes it even worse in regards to any type of renewable solar, windmill, anything like that. It takes that out as well too, and prohibits the commission from adopting or enforcing any policy decision or rule that increases or decreases or otherwise conflicts with the requirements prescribed in that bill. So in my opinion, it got worse. So just to remind those, the current REST rules, they were adopted in 2006 by the Arizona Corporation Commission and require 12% renewable by 2022, 13 by 2023, 14% by 2024, and 15% by 2025. The existing REST rules also require 30% of the renewable requirement to come from distributed generation, aka the DG carve out, and the amendment that was just put onto the Senate bill does not contain that carve out. So hence how it makes it a little bit worse on that aspect. But truly for me, agree that it is a very unconstitutional bill. It is one that is seeking to strip the authority and power from the commission itself. That is a bad way to move here for Arizona and for our residents as well too. So I stood in opposition at the commission against it, and it was a 3-2 vote. 3 commissioners voted to remain neutral on the bills, and 2 commissioners decided to be opposed to it, and that was myself and Commissioner Kennedy. I have spoken out at the legislature in testimony against it as well too, and have been outreaching to all the Democratic members and also some of the Republican members. I've been able to speak at the Latino caucus and the Indigenous Peoples Caucus as well too, in regards to both of these bills, and trying to develop strategies to try and kill these bills. Also outreach to other organizations as well too, to encourage for people to meet with their representatives, send emails or calls as well too. So I'm sure we'll be discussing it a little bit more, but it will be very hurtful in regards to what the commission can do. So it's hard. It's hard pill to swallow, because it is just such a wrong thing to be doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to ask you another question, just specifically for you. Is there anything we can do as youth or students, just people involved in the climate movement, that we are not already doing to help you as a corporation commissioner to move Arizona to be a more climate friendly state? Oh, I think you're muted.
I always do that. First, again, thank you for everything that you guys are doing in regards to, number one, having this webinar and having outreach as well too, in regards to these 2 bills. It is, for me, just a passion in making sure that we move Arizona forward in regards to renewable energy, and this clean energy bills that are being proposed right now currently in the commission is how we move forward. But again, the bills that were passed, um, that are being passed right now jeopardize that. And also just want to give you a background in regards to the energy rules that were passed last year before I came onto the commission. It was a 4-1 vote, meaning that 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat voted for the clean energy rules. And again, I wasn't there when that happened, but it was a bipartisan support. And I think all that voted, including myself now, know that the rules aren't perfect. For me, they're not as aggressive as I would like them to be, or ambitious as in regards to the timeline. But they are what they are right now. And considering that we might there might be an issue there at the commission in regards to people switching their votes. So just a background as well too, the lone no vote was by Commissioner Justin Olson, who is would describe as a very conservative member of the commission. Him and I also served at the state legislature, so I do recognize that he is a conservative member of the Republican Party. He's been really proactive in pushing the commission to deregulate, just like Texas, since he took office in 2017, and he lost the energy rules vote. And so, in my personal opinion, he went to the legislature. And this is how, 4 bills in total right now that are being mentioned are moving forward. So I think it is definitely a long haul if these bills pass. It is my hope that the commission challenges them in court. We would actually have to vote to challenge them, and that is another issue that we could potentially have. Of course, there's very serious constitutional concerns with this because it does infringe illegally on our constitutional authority that you mentioned at the very beginning in regards to who we are as a commission. It's written in our state constitution. I feel right now I need to do my work in regards to being a commissioner. That's why I'm speaking up and speaking out. I'm going to continue to do my job. The voters elected me this past year, and I feel it is just an honor for me to represent all Arizonans at the commission. And I want to make sure that we are moving the needle in the right direction with aggressive changes. So I will continue to be vocal in regards to this. It's not going to stop me from doing what I need to be doing unless the Supreme Court instructs me otherwise. But I feel that there is quite a bit of work to be done, and you have a very integral part in being part of that process. So I would say continue to be engaged. I would ask everyone here on the call as well to email all commissioners in regards to energy rules and ask for them to come to a vote, ask for them to support the energy rules as well too. We have, and I've gotten some email where a lot has been confused in regards to the Green New Deal and the energy rules, and most of them are, the emails are in opposition of those clean energy rules. And so if you can email all of us and, contact, whatever commissioners that you want, me included, I would definitely appreciate it, because that would definitely go a long way in regards to bringing forward the clean energy rules. I also would like to continue this conversation and have updates on what you can do within your community and also within the state as well too. But you guys are doing everything right now by having and informing your friends, your family, and your neighbors on just how bad these bills are. And I think once people know more about them, that will create more accountability to hold those legislators and saying, look, this is not what Arizonans want with these type of bills.
Thank you. And my next question is for Eric. Throughout your time at the state legislature, was renewable energy a priority for you personally, and did your colleagues feel the same way?
Gosh, that's a good question. Renewable energy very much has been a priority. And I think, and to answer your question, as far as my colleagues go, I think, and I don't want to make this a partisan issue because it really shouldn't be. But certainly, yeah, my Democratic colleagues were in general favorable to renewable energy initiatives. I don't think every one of my Democratic colleagues was on board with the Green New Deal. That can kind of be a rabbit hole to go down. But I think in general, though, that, it's, I think the really unfortunate aspects of energy in this state is partisan, and that shouldn't be. So I think kind of the question that you had asked to Commissioner Tovar is one I also want to kind of respond to in terms of what you can do. And that is to really begin to build a narrative, a very honest and true and genuine narrative that this is not a partisan issue. This is very much a human issue, and it's a climate crisis issue. Um, and I think that, you know, in terms of how we prepare, um, leveraging the truths that we see all over the globe in terms of what the metrics say, what NASA says, what NOAA has to say, the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, what does that actually say? The time to leverage the science behind that, I think, it's always present. But I think, one of the things that would be tremendously valuable is if we put these concerns in human contexts. With the Green New Deal, generally speaking, I'm in favor of that. Is it fully baked? No. And the areas that I think we could be making real use of it is asking ourselves, what does that mean in terms of completely rebuilding our utility infrastructure? What does that grid system look like? And really, how many jobs does that mean? Because right now, when you look at the utility infrastructure for the state, it was built and it still exists to serve coal. We know what has happened with the coal industry locally, nationally, and internationally. The Navajo Generating Station is down. It's literally down. It was dismantled just a few weeks ago or several weeks ago. And it begs the question then, what is the alternative? Where are we going? What exists? And how possible is the Green New Deal? And even if it is possible, are we ready? What does that mean? And tribal governments govern 1/4 of the state's land base. That's a lot of land. And so, what do those intergovernmental discussions look like? Are they being honored from a sovereign to sovereign level? Tribes have very much been a major player for obvious reasons, but in terms of what does that mean and how challenging how challenging is it to get a mutually beneficial resolve had? A lot of times the tribes are not brought to the table, and we all lose, regardless of what the tribes have to say. And so I think in terms of being efficient and effective, having the Arizona constituency base simply say, let's stop playing partisan politics and let's start talking real issues and pushing that narrative on a go-forward basis, and one that especially includes tribal governments. I don't always agree with what some tribes do, particularly mine, the Navajo Nation. It's been run by coal-based industry for so long. So I don't agree with it. But I do think in terms of reinforcing those conversations and having direct, clear, transparent discussions are going to be fruitful for all of us on a go-forward basis. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. And my next question is for Indira. I asked both panelists kind of responded to the question of how we can get involved. And I want to hear from you. What do you think is inspiring youth to get involved in politics in their local government and the climate movement more specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Well, I think that a lot of youth, such as myself, now have access to not only these big media sources, but they also have the stories of small injustices that people are experiencing every day with the climate crisis and with other, for lack of a better word, problems that are going on in the world. And so I think we have a great understanding of what is happening, and then just seeing all these stories is making us know that we have to step up and make a change. And also seeing all of the amazing youth environmental activists who are creating organizations and leading protests and meeting with representatives is so inspiring, at least to me, because it shows that it's possible to make a change even if you're still in high school, which is really inspiring. And also spaces like this where youth are given a platform to speak and are included is so incredibly helpful, and it just elevates the voice of the youth and gives us a feeling like we belong and we have a place to speak. So we've been using that platform.
Yeah, thank you. I can definitely agree with that there. Um, and I guess this will be my last question from me. We might be able to take some questions from the audience afterwards. But I just kind of want to think idealistically here. What would expanding renewable energy in the state of Arizona mean to you guys and the communities you represent? So just like dreaming big, what do you think that would look like in Arizona, and what would it mean to you? I'll start with Indira.
I think that to start pursuing these renewable energy projects in Arizona, first we have to create the framework to pursue that. So if there continues to be bills passed from both the House and the Senate attacking the Corporation Commission and diminishing their power to create new environmental projects, which is something that they're obviously afraid of doing, without the framework to pursue those, then it's pretty much not possible in Arizona. So I think it's really important to stop those bills from passing. And also, hopefully in the state of Arizona, there could be different projects to suit the different communities, because having accessibility to renewable energy is something that is really difficult to achieve, but if it's done right, I think it could be a whole new future for Arizona that would hopefully provide cleaner energy to all communities.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let's hear from Eric on that question.
Well, I think renewable energy, when we talk about energy, we talk about lifestyle. And, you know, in 2013, I lived in a Hogan, it's a traditional dwelling for Navajo people. And it was a Hogan that didn't have hard floors or running water, it was dirt floors. And I had my sons with me. And it's an interesting lifestyle to live. But that's generally sustainable. I mean, it was nice to get electricity such that I could iron my clothes and look professional when I showed up. Um, and it was nice to be able to have internet and fire up my laptop to be relevant professionally. But I think, you know, some of those, it really begs the question, what does it do for our lives overall? And when we talk about energy, when we talk about load per household, when we talk about what's convenient, and when we talk about the future, you know, what are we willing to change about ourselves? Um, I think, you know, when we talk about renewable energy, we talk about our lives comprehensively. Um, and I think renewable energy also means asking ourselves how good of a community member are we? How good of a relative are we? And what are we willing to change? Because if we could change all the laws and all the policies and bring in all the technology and industry that will allow for a successful renewable energy lifestyle. But if we don't actually change our lifestyles, it's not going to work. Um, you know, when I think about energy, I think very much about water resources, and you know, it doesn't take a whole lot to recognize that 5 to 7 million people living in the Phoenix metro area in a desert that was never built to sustain that amount of human lives isn't going to work. That's not sustainable. So, how much, you know, stop asking people to conserve water and start asking corporations to start conserving water. The, the golf the golf courses. And you know, the list continues thereafter as to, you know, who is really consuming most of the water. We do have a water crisis in this state, and it goes hand in hand with the energy crisis. And so, you know, I think, you know, what does it mean? It means that all of us, young up to elderly age, have a lot of work to do in underscoring what that really means on an individual front, but also to, in terms of where we need to be pressing corporations to change how much water they consume, how much energy they consume. I think that's going to be really critical. But in the end, I think it means that we live better lives, we live healthier lives, we live insightful lives. I think the wisdom is found within some of those challenges. Um, I think also too is that if handled well and the leadership steps up, then we also, it translates to jobs, it translates to a new economy. We have to rebuild what the energy looks like, and those are blue collar jobs. Those are that's an economic boom, and I believe that's what the Green New Deal is about. Lastly, and it goes hand in hand with what I just mentioned, is that renewable energy takes the power out of a few and places it back into the many. And that's going to be a life-changing experience for a lot of people, for a lot of communities, is that it decentralizes the power and energy and redistributes it to the people. And I think that that can open up a whole lot of opportunities. And at the end of the day, given the crisis that we're in, the various forms of crisis that we are dealing with, it translates to lives saved. And given that we just crossed 500,000 people who have passed because of the current pandemic, that should mean something to people. So, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughts on that question. And then lastly, Commissioner Tovar, just thinking idealistically, what would expanding renewable energy look like in the state of Arizona, and what would that mean to you?
Well, definitely would mean a better way of life for many. But I agree with Eric in that we all play that crucial part of making those changes. For me, those changes came because cancer affected my life in a dramatic way where I almost lost my life. So I learned just new skills on what I needed to do. But he hit on a very important point of in order to bring that massive change to scale where we see the health benefits, where we see the new green jobs, is within the biggest industries here in the state of Arizona, or those that are planning to move into the state as well too. So it is definitely, would be definitely a step in the right direction, but at the same time, we would still have a lot of work to do in regards to bringing it to fruition, to see the benefits sooner rather than later, and continue just that mission to move it forward within all aspects of our community. And one of the one that I'm passionate about as well too is just the communities of color, especially in our tribal lands as well too. I've seen so much in regards to COVID, where I was mayor of a community that was 80% Latino, and just everything that was happening, it was just amplified in regards to the inequities that my community was suffering. So definitely we'll keep pushing and advocating on how and these communities need the spotlight to be on them, and for us to bring those positive changes. Because truly, when I would speak to constituencies here in my community, they wanted to be part of the change of renewable energy. They wanted to make our environment better. They just didn't know how, and a lot of the barriers were with money in regards to not knowing what to do. So, started some programming here in our city to help all people, and regardless of where they live, that shouldn't be able to dictate how they participate in the renewable energy process here in our state. But I agree, there's a lot of work to do in regards to it. And one of the things that I want to bring to you today is I know I've spoken before about it, is I definitely want to have a youth climate stakeholder group. So that's something I want to establish at the commission, and I want to invite each and every one of you to take part in it, because truly your voice and your solutions are going to be key in how we move our state forward. So I'll make sure to reach out to Sarah so we can get this started, because I truly want to, number one, listen to your ideas. I want you to share your story, not just to me, but to other commissioners, to other representatives, and your solutions as well too. I truly want you to be highlighted because you have many great ideas and your experience and your voices, and you're very passionate about this. And I really want you to be able to share your story so that people can realize that you are the driving force of making this change here in Arizona as well too.
Thank you. That's really exciting for us, I think, to have a voice at the commission. All right, so I think we'll take some questions from people attending. I'll have Annie Baker help me with reading them out to you guys. If we have questions yet.
Yeah, thanks so much for everyone speaking and everyone asking questions. Our first question from Shelley is, why have the 3 Republican commissioners chosen to take a neutral stance on the 2 bills?
That's a very good question. I did push for the commission to take either a two, not have a neutral stance. It's either you are for or against it. And that was something I proposed by a motion, but was overruled. I think the rationale that the 3 commissioners voted neutral on is because they felt that they wanted to outreach to the legislature in regards to trying working on the bill. I will note that one commissioner who voted at the commission in neutrality was at the legislature speaking in support of the bills as well too. So that brought some confusion, and I tried to clarify that not once but twice. And again, we continued on with the neutral stance on both those bills.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to respond? Okay, our second question is an unofficial, will the recording be on the NASCA site? And yes, it will be posted to the video library, so you can go to NASCA and find this on there. Okay, and then we have a question from Shar for Commissioner Tovar. Has the ALJ issued a recommending order? Are you now waiting to vote on a final order? If not, then are you suggesting we write to all the commissioners asking them and you to take that final vote? Then will they proceed for final certification? So I can repeat and break this down if you need.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you for the question, Char. Very important one. So the ALJ has not issued a recommended order just yet. We're expected to see it in late spring and early summer. So hopefully we'll have the opportunity to vote on it. And once it's approved, it would go then to the AG's office for the final step in rulemaking. And then after that, it would go into effect. I will note, if it were to come up for a vote, and if there are amendments that made substantive changes to the rules, then that would take us to restarting the hearing process. So we would have to redo everything from December 1st, from the time that we were going to vote on it. So it would delay the process if there was any type of substantive amendments added and approved. So that would probably, in my estimation, would probably put it on hold in that process for about maybe a year, up to 18 months as well too. I would urge you to write specifically the chairwoman, because I would consider her to be the third vote in order to pass the clean energy rules, and encourage her to stay the course and vote with her prior vote and her prior work with the clean energy rules. And would ask if there's anyone here from Pima County that would probably mobilize and do the same. And I think that would be a great idea, because she is the only commissioner that is from outside of Maricopa County and represents Pima area as well too. So if you can, that would be my suggestion in encouraging by emailing, writing, calling as well too, asking for that to come to fruition. Also, if the bills pass at the legislature, the two horrible bills, let's play worst case scenario and the governor signs them, I would then ask if you guys can write every single commissioner and asking them to vote to challenge the bills in court, because we would need a majority in order to challenge the bills in court as well too. So my two asks of you, so that we can make sure that we're all doing your part and you're sharing your story of how important it is for you.
Thank you. Somebody asked what the ALJ was, and Erin answered it in the chat. So if you were also confused about that, check out the chat. Thank you, Erin.
I'm sorry, the commission is all full of like acronyms, and here I am trying to like doing it. But yes, administrative law judge. And so Erin is my policy advisor, part of our team there. She's an attorney as well too. So glad to have her on our staff and part of the team there. And also we have Jennifer Benally, who served with me as my administrative assistant in the legislature, the House and the Senate. So we're a small team of three, but we are mighty.
Awesome. Well, thank you for attending, Erin. And Jennifer, if I missed that. Peggy asks, are the commissioners considering the latest disaster effects stemming from the unregulated Texas utilities? Is there any discussion about that?
Yes, so last week we had a meeting and there was an item on the agenda to get an update from all utilities in regards to the disaster in Texas in regards to utilities. So I would say the vast majority of utilities had the opportunity to give us an update of where they were here in Arizona, and then actually from in Texas as well too. So they did provide those updates. I did ask questions just in regards to, just explain the difference of, a Texas and Arizona and how can this happen here? Because there was a lot of fear that was being brought to my attention from constituency, from them watching the news. So I just wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to clarify the difference between Arizona and Texas and having that deregulation model there that they've been under for over a decade. So I hear that we will have another discussion piece on it as well too. One of the issues that I've brought up before this, and not with Texas, was in regards to cybersecurity. Because there was a wastewater plant out in Florida that was pretty much held at ransom. So those, another issue that I dealt with at the city level as well too. So that was an issue I brought to the attention, and hopefully we'll be moving forward as we did discuss that as well too in our meeting as well too. But we will probably be discussing the Texas issue again at our next meeting.
Thank you. This one is also related to Texas. How did Commissioner Olson respond to the Texas disaster stemming from the deregulated market? Has that influenced his views of deregulating the Arizona energy market, which is similar?
I don't know. I know that there was an article written, I think just yesterday, in regards to trying to get a comment, but I don't believe he responded in regards to a comment on it. And it was a very similar question that was just asked by Shelley. So he has not officially on the record given a response as well too. But I would suggest and encourage you, if you would like, definitely email him or give him a call in regards to that. And you are his constituent, because we do represent the entire state. So I would say if you would email him and ask him for his response.
Okay. Are there any more questions, Annie?
Nope, there's some new information in the chat. Last chance for questions. All right. Thank you everyone for your questions. And Erin posted an FYI if you want to contact Commissioner Tavar or the climate group, reach out at the information provided.
Awesome. I want to be respectful of time, but is there anything that the panelists would like to add that I didn't ask? Anything from you three? No? Awesome. All right. So we did a lot of talking here, but it's time for action. We strongly recommend that if you haven't already, to call and write your representatives, as we've been talking about. If you're not already signed up with requests to speak, highly suggest that you do that. We'll likely send out more information on how to get involved after this, since you all registered for this event. So we have your emails, and so you guys can get on request to speak, so you can take a stance on more bills as they come along, because they will. Yeah, that's all I got. So thank you all for coming, and have a great evening. Bye.